It looks like a lot, but it actually is a lot. Actually, I shouldn't, because this could fall in.
I'm not gonna try to get it out after that.
This is an interesting development. Is that funny? Say here, chicken.
Here, chicken.
Good job. He's eating the treat, that's right. Good job. You can throw it at them. Yeah, there you go. Say here, chicken. Hi there, yo folks. Welcome to the Yo Stead, where I think it's safe to say that fall has finally arrived. It's chilly, it's gloomy, kind of rainy and drizzly, and I'm loving every minute of it. Is that lettuce growing in our grass? I'll have to bust out the plant app, but I think that might be lettuce just growing on our lawn. Boy, there's a lot of it here. I think that's lettuce, guys. Wouldn't it be cool if you just had a lawn completely comprised of greens, of just lettuce and kale and arugula, and you're just walking? Boy, it's all over the place. Look at this. I'm wondering, there must have been birds or something that took it from the garden and spread it out over here. I'm obviously not going to eat it. I walk on this stuff, but maybe the chickens will like it. This is an interesting development. Anyways, what was I talking about? Yes, a couple of things to get to today. The first is the IBC tote. We have to finish setting this up, the rain collection system. Right now, there's no connection from the gutter that I put up down to the actual tote itself. This also needs to be covered to prevent algae growth. That's going to be my primary task today, and I also want to give you guys some updates on the shed that Dad's building. I opted for a PVC-based system as opposed to just kind of a flex hose for a couple of reasons. I think it'll withstand the test of time a little bit more than those other rain collection systems I have with those barrels, which is something I will need to update. I think this will be a little more solid. I'm gonna dry fit the PVC pieces together. I'll cement where I need to, but I want to avoid as much cement as possible when constructing this, just because this will be water that will be going to the garden or towards our animals. The cap to the tote has this hole in the middle that's threaded. And I was actually able to find a connector, a threaded connector, piece of PVC that fits perfectly inside of it, which will make my job of connecting my PVC drip system directly to the tote very easy. I might need to move it a little bit that way. But before I get too involved with that operation, I'd like to create an overflow spot, a little drain spot for overflow, because this thing will fill up very quickly. And if I don't have some sort of overflow release, then it'll back up and water will start coming out of the top, and it could mess up my PVC system. And there's an issue with that because on either side of the actual drain, the port that I have set up, I need to have some bushings there to prevent leakage. How do I reach in and get the bushings on this side? So what I've decided I'm going to try and do is I'm going to drill a hole first. I'm going to use a PVC, smaller diameter PVC as my primary drain pipe. I'm going to drill a hole in here. I'm going to wait to cut the PVC, and I'm going to push it in until I can reach it from there on the hole. Put the bushing on, pull it back, and then cut it. That's what I'm gonna try and do. We'll see if it works. So I bought this shroud from Amazon for, I don't know, 20 something bucks, and it's meant to cover the whole tote. It's cheap enough to where if it wears down or gets old or sunburnt or ripped up, I can replace it pretty easily. But the primary function of the shroud is to prevent algae growth from inside the IBC tote. Anything that's translucent like this and exposed to the sun will grow algae, and that's what this is designed to prevent. And it makes it look a little better, too. So before I put in the pipe, the overflow pipe, it makes sense to have the shroud in place so I don't have to fiddle with that shroud, and this thing's already in. So I'm gonna put the shroud on, cut a little hole for the overflow pipe, and then we'll start with that. There we go. Yeah, looks good. Nice.
Right, yeah. You don't have to worry about it collapsing.
There we go. Now, if you wouldn't mind, Dad, pulling it back and giving it some resistance, I'm going to check in from the other side to see if... You know what? I'm going to use my camera here. Actually, I shouldn't, because this could fall in.
No, try to get it out after that. Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
Okay, it looks like it's flush. So you're pulling on it.
I'm pulling on it. I'm not,
Yanking.
Yeah,
But you're giving it a fair amount of pull. Again, this won't be easy.
Gonna give your thumbs a break for a minute. I can try.
It's working.
Yeah, you're getting there. Just a little bit more. There we go.
I want to get that as snug as possible. That's snug.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be any leaking. No.
Yeah.
And I can just put that on and call it a day. For now, it looks good.
Yeah. And I think it will definitely serve the purpose.
Yep. It's solid.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. I don't think there will be any leaks from that. So the mesh fit in here perfectly. I was talking about this with Dad. I'm gonna let this dry. I'm just gonna keep all these parts dry fit for the time being.
Because they're in there pretty secure.
They're in there secure. So when I say dry fit, I mean not putting any PVC cement. Just because I really do want to avoid it as much as possible for water that'll be going to our plants and our animals.
We talked about another possibility of putting some screws in there.
I think that might be where I go. Yeah, so instead of putting cement on here, tapping in one, maybe even just one screw, potentially two. The mesh, of course, is to keep bugs out. Looks like it's in there pretty well. So that'll keep the bugs out. And there is a slight angle here. Dad, you bust out the level.
Yep.
And all you need when you have water, when you want to move water, is a very, very slight angle.
And that's plenty.
Water always finds its level. So if you even have just a very slight angle, that's what it's going to do. It's going to slow down. It's going to float down and go to where I want it. Next order of business is to build a skirt around the bottom of the tote structure that I've created here, primarily just to keep Henry from crawling around in these rocks. He loves hanging up, playing with gravel and throwing it around. So this is very tempting to him. And when this thing is filled up, and it's a ton, it's a literal ton, it's over 2,000 pounds, I just don't want him crawling around. So I've got cedar 4x4s that I had found up in the hayloft just laying around, as well as these cedar pickets that I'll use to form the skirt. So that's it. This project is done. I was able to get a double spigot for the outflow here. Everything works coming in. I tested it with the hose, and then obviously we have the skirt around to keep our toddler from crawling underneath this very heavy IBC tote when it's full. I fashioned this door to flip up. I've got a little prop here. I've got this hook and eye system to keep it latched shut. I don't know if I mentioned this. I was able to get an extension for the outflow pipe just so I can put some mesh in. Bugs aren't getting up into there, just like they're not getting in from up there. So it's a completely closed system, and that the only thing that should be able to get in is water. This area down here, we'll probably store hoses and things like that down there. So it's nice to have, and then I'll just keep this prop. I'll just keep this prop stored under there when not in use. And then latch it shut, and then voila. I think it looks good. I'm very happy with it. Now we just need to wait for it to rain, and of course it will start getting very cold here in the next week or two. So I may not want to fill it up at all, just with the freezes that we'll have overnight. I'll think about that. But everything looks good. I'm very happy with this project. So last time we had an update last week, the siding wasn't up yet. I think we had just put in the windows and the doors. Right. Well, you put in, I helped a little bit.
Yep.
But since then, a lot has changed in the span of a week.
Yeah.
And it looks great. Siding.
That.
So it's not just siding, but also trim that you've done.
Right. Yeah, we were talking earlier about just the kind of the transformative image or feel.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff that you work on, you don't feel as though you're getting your return in terms of, you spend a lot of time and effort, and it's nothing that you can really look at. But with siding and trim, it's almost the opposite. You don't have to spend a ton of time, but you get a pretty good return on that in terms of just getting a feel of things are moving along.
I've always joked that it feels like painting something feels like a complete renovation. If you just paint something,
right,
it makes a huge difference if you paint something a new color.
Yep.
And it's the same principle here with siding, where having the siding up in the trim, it pops.
Yeah, it adds a lot to it.
And it looks really, really good. So
we're pretty happy with the with the color. So when you buy, or at least the stuff that we bought, it's sort of a beige finish on it.
Mm-hmm.
Had thought about just leaving it as is, but we decided to go with this kind of a sage green, very similar in color to what we have on the interior of the house, just because we like it, you know. And it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but especially with the white, it does seem to pop. We like it. We think it looks pretty good.
It does look good. So you did this side first, and you got the
It's
the trim, the
trim.
PVC trim covering the ledger board on the bottom, and then the trim around the windows, the trim around the door. And that was your first step. And then you moved on to this side. So you set in these the bottom 3/4 of the wall here with the siding. Easy enough.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't terribly difficult.
There's not that much. It's a rectangle that you pin up.
Yep.
This required this cap of siding required a little bit more finesse. So
Yep.
what we did, and I'll play the footage. What we did is you had some boards rough cut, some siding boards rough cut. You placed them up there. I got up on the roof and I traced out where the roof line was, and then you cut them.
Yeah, just used a jigsaw to cut the angles that we needed. So that seam that goes horizontally across where the boards meet, I'll put a bead of sealant there, or some kind of appropriate silicone or whatever the case. And eventually there will be an additional PVC, probably a 3.5-inch wide PVC that spans that seam. And of course, down on the bottom, I'll have one similar to what we have on the front. It's a very wide board.
And there'll be some work on so there'll be that seam there. But there'll be some work on the very top as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So today, I bought some drip edge material that will go underneath the existing shingles. I spent, I don't know, hour and a half. It was one of those things where you put a lot of effort in and you have no idea that you did anything. So that I'll have access to slide in the drip edge. So it'll come out and down over the edge, the angled edge of the board. And that won't be seen eventually. I mean, for a little while, it'll be there and apparent, and it'll look kind of ugly. But it's there just to protect from rain and anything else. Until eventually we start working on the roof, and there's a whole other metal drip edge that will go down.
That goes over
that.
Yep. Awesome. So a little bit of work left to do on this wall right here, but then you told me you're hoping to get started on the north side.
Yeah, hopefully
here.
I think today at least one panel. This is a little more difficult than this wall here. Like you said, it's just rectangular panels that you're pinning in. You got to make sure they're level, whatever. But these here, there are various cuts that you need to make. So it's a little more time intensive. But yeah, hopefully today I'll get the drip edge in, maybe the PVC trim down on the bottom. I don't want to put the seam one up just yet. And at least the first panel around the door, get that in.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a pretty good
Cool.
day's work.
Well, a lot. It looks like a lot in the span of a week because of that siding, but it actually is a lot. I mean, it's a lot of work. So by the next video, next Sunday, this should hopefully be completed.
Hopefully. And what we've been talking about is with the other shed, beginning to work on that, just removing the existing panels.
It's just studs behind this panel, right?
Correct. And it's just so weathered, and I mean, there's mildew. I don't know if that's mold, but whatever. It's warped and old. I think I'm just going to remove these panels, and instead of putting OSB or any other kind of sheathing up, I'm just going to put
straight siding,
the LP siding, which is what a lot of sheds have anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say that right now that's what's behind this anyways, is just straight to stud. This siding goes right there. So yeah, this isn't going to be a living space.
Correct. It's just going to contain
storage.
Leftover storage stuff.
Okay, awesome. Dad, another week of progress, and it's really starting to look like it's coming together in a very big way. This looks incredible. It really pops.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Can't wait to see more get done.
All right.
Thank you, Dad. Well, it's been a busy week. A lot has gotten done between getting our water system set up, which I'm very excited about, and some very visible progress on the bunkhouse, the cabin. It's exciting to see things come along like this. We've got more on the way. As November ticks along, we get closer to turkey processing time. I need to start thinking about that and start picking out the 4 turkeys that I want to put in the freezer. It's hard because turkeys are such friendly creatures, and I've developed relationships with them. They follow me around, but it is a business relationship. So I need to pick 4 of the young turkeys to get ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, always stuff happening. We really appreciate you guys following along and hanging out with us. And until we see you again next time, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.